I'm Steve Morgan, founder of Cybersecurity Ventures and editor-in-chief at Cybercrime magazine. I'm here today with Gordon Lawson, CEO at Conceal, provider of an intelligence-grade zero-trust technology that protects global companies of all sizes from malware and ransomware. To learn more about our sponsor Conceal, visit conceal.io. Also joining us is Robert Hall, product marketing director at Brigantia, an award-winning value-added cybersecurity distributor serving channel partners across the UK and Ireland. Gordon, Robert, welcome. Great to have you both with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be back.
So, Robert, let's kick off here and talk about ransomware. It is plaguing the world. Here in the US, we have a pulse on it. Talk to us about the UK, Europe, Ireland, basically wherever it is you focus in the world. We view it as the fastest type of cybercrime, fastest growing type of cybercrime, that is. What are you seeing and what are you hearing from your partners?
Pretty much the same thing. I mean, obviously, one of the things that we see is that the stats don't lie. The stats show that ransomware is growing rapidly. I think, for many of us in Europe and outside of the US, ransomware is a major issue, and specifically in the UK, because the UK it's one of those markets where it's a big target for ransomware attacks. And it's a message that we're always pushing to our partners and our MSP partners, that having a layered approach to security is the best way of trying to protect against ransomware, so that you cover everything from the endpoint device through to the user that's sitting behind the machine as well. So the problem is, though, that with so many different threat vectors, it's hard to say how many layers will be the magic number. Or I think the one thing that I would say is that the message we always put out is that there's no such thing as too much security. There's always there can always be too little security, though.
So, Gordon, what really concerns me is the challenge for security leaders, for CSOs, to keep up on this. Conceal sponsors a report we put out on ransomware. We previously did it on an annual basis, and now to really try to keep up with all of the new gangs and the new strains, we moved to a quarterly. And even with putting this out quarterly, I just read through the Q1 edition. I can't believe how many new strains there are compared to just 3 months ago. Talk to us about that and what security leaders can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously keeping up with the thought leadership that you're putting out, Steve, is critical. The other piece that I would say is just some anecdotes about some of the vectors that we're seeing. So we recently got something internally, and keep in mind, we're a cybersecurity company. We have the strongest Microsoft defenses. We have a great EDR. But we're still seeing these attacks come through. This one was from a real.edu address. It was a redirect of a safe URL to an unsafe.ru URL that then went to a cred theft. And these things are just very, very difficult to detect, to defend against. I don't think that any amount of training is sufficient. We know that users are going to click on these artifacts, and that it's going to can have catastrophic consequences on the network. There's got to be continued, as Robert said, continued defense in depth and continued education that you need to be able to protect against how quickly these vectors are evolving.
So Gordon.ru is the implication that there are hostilities from Russia?
Well, I think that's I don't think that's just my opinion. I think it's clear that the nation states are after it, but it's not only the nation. Maybe it's not the nation states themselves, but it's certainly criminal gangs that are sponsored and residing in safe havens within those countries. And I don't think the geopolitical environment is going to change in our favor anytime soon. So certainly, as we support companies in the U.S. and I would say within NATO allies, Robert, with obviously the UK, has been a strong supporter of what's been going on in Ukraine. They're going to come after us, and we just know we have to protect our clients as effectively as possible.
So, Robert, it's really refreshing to have you on with us. We typically have cybersecurity vendors and experts. We have a lot of people from the outside coming in with us. These could be CSOs and security leaders who work for them. But frankly, we haven't had a lot of representation from the channel, and yet it is an enormous ecosystem. It is such an important part of our industry. It doesn't always make the headlines, obviously. But talk to us a little bit about what your company does, because I think it's in such a critical position, and anything you'd want to point out insofar as differences between the US and UK that you see.
Well, first of all, a bit about Brigantia as a business. We're a cybersecurity focused distribution company. We don't have a broad base. We don't have a broad base of products because at the end of the day, people are only going to buy one product. So we try to have the best or a market leading solution in each category so that we can add a layered approach to security. Because the message we take to our partners, and I can't comment on what the difference between the US and the UK model is, but in the UK, we talk about partners offering things like Cyber Essentials, which is a government framework, which really focuses on the device level security, so that devices have got endpoint security, they've got firewalls, they've got password management, and various other things like that to secure them. We also recommend adding different layers, and some of this is led by cyber insurance requirements, some of it is led by compliance requirements, but we really focus in on things like security awareness training, password management, multi-factor authentication, because for us the logic is that when you add all those different layers up, you have a more effective security stack, and your security posture is a lot stronger. So that's the message we put out to our partners and to the channel. So with Conceal, I think it's quite a unique relationship in the sense, or a partnership in the sense that Conceal is quite different to some of the other products that we have, in the sense that it focuses on the browser-based security. And from our point of view, that allows us to enter different areas of the market. Things like education, which are focused on using Chromebook devices, which traditionally don't allow us to use the same security tools. So it allows us to get into markets like that, and that's what Brigantia is all about. Growing rapidly through new vendor acquisition and a very proactive sales approach to within our channel.
So Gordon, one of the biggest challenges for cybersecurity companies is going global. So you have companies located across the globe who want to enter the US market, and then you have a lot of US-based cybersecurity companies who want to penetrate the European and APAC markets, et cetera. Talk to us about Conceal. I know the company's been growing and doing a lot of exciting things. What is your vision for international growth?
Well, we have clients across the Middle East now. We have clients across Europe as well. And I think that from an efficiency standpoint, I feel very lucky to have been able to engage with Robert and the Brigantia team, because they do have such a wide breadth. And that distribution model is certainly, it's very efficient for us. But most importantly, they have a trusted relationship with their clients. That client base is, it's a range of companies, but typically I would say companies, less than 5,000 employees, which is our bread and butter as well. And so being able to reach them with a trusted advisor like Brigantia makes a ton of sense for how we go about it. So if I was giving advice to other companies, Steve, I would always say, just be focused. Do not try and boil the ocean. Be focused and just take great care of the partners that you do sign up. And really enable them to be outstanding, which we're just kicking off with Brigantia, but I know it's going to be an amazing relationship in the coming months.
So Robert, one of the trends we've been following in the media, and we also talk to a lot of MSPs, is a major expansion in the SMB space, and particularly, small companies. Are you hearing that from the MSPs you work with? And, what observations do you have about that? Why are so many small companies turning to the MSPs?
To be honest with you, our market is primarily the SMB space, but going into that sort of larger, getting towards enterprise level companies, because I think here in the UK, the MSPs have always worked on that break fix model. But I think what those traditional customers are looking at, or businesses are looking at doing, is instead of just doing the break fix and making sure that IT is running, they are demanding that security is something that the MSPs take seriously. And that's why we are seeing, at least here in the UK, we're seeing a lot of MSPs transitioning from that MSP to MSSP model. And yeah, that's everything from 5 user businesses up to 500, 5,000 and so on. So that's really where our commercial model works, because we do that monthly billing, that recurring revenue model, and it just works really well with our business and with our channel. And for end users that are looking at paying for their IT and their security solutions on more of an OPEX basis than a CAPEX, it makes it a lot more realistic for them, and it allows them to cover the cost over the course of the year. So yeah.
So Gordon, you and I often talk about statistics, frame of reference for, market challenges, insights, what have you. So let me just put one on the table. More than 50% of cyber attacks, actually it's approaching 60% globally, strike small businesses. And yet, we're talking about organizations where typically they don't have a CIO, let alone a CISO. They generally do not have a dedicated cybersecurity leader. A lot of these companies are lucky if they have dedicated IT staff, and sometimes it might just be one or two people. So, what are we seeing? What are these companies doing to prepare? And clearly, we're expecting to see a lot more spend from that market.
Yet you're exactly right, Steve. They're more vulnerable. I think the attack surface would certainly be greater because they don't have the budget to invest in all the newest bright shiny tools. And just to add on to this, I was speaking to a group of kind of big company CISOs last week, and I was like, just to be clear, you'll probably never have anyone else say this, but you're not our target audience. Would love to for y'all to use our technology, but I'm concerned about the unfortunate 50,000, the unfortunate 100,000, those companies that a ransomware attack is catastrophic to the business and puts them out of business forever, and it's too expensive for them to get cyber insurance now. So I think the way we address this is exactly what I think Robert and I are passionate about. And there is a great community, I think, of companies that have that they know how to work with MSPs. They know how to make it affordable for the SMBs to be able to ingest technology. And also, frankly, the technology has to be simple enough for them to see the value very quickly. And for us at the browser level, protecting against ransomware and credential theft is a critical piece. It's probably 90% of how a company is going to be affected by cybercrime. And so we want to give them that affordable, easy to implement, quick time to value. And from our perspective, and this is something we talk about at Conceal, we think that's a really noble mission to be able to defend folks that are going to have trouble defending themselves because of a lack of resources.
So Robert, before you came on with us today, Gordon and I were chatting offline. He mentioned that you've been working with KnowBe4. Just about everybody is familiar with the company now. They're a unicorn in the cybersecurity space. We go way back with them. In fact, we produced a documentary with Stu, the CEO, and some of the key, early people who were with the company. We do a lot of work with them now. They sponsor a lot of our media. Fantastic company. So how do you find these companies? How did you originally, land on KnowBe4? How did you partner up with Conceal? They're another company who we view as a market leader who, breaking ground in their category.
KnowBe4 was one that came around almost by chance, really. We were distributing a product which was then acquired by KnowBe4, and they didn't have KnowBe4 didn't have a great distribution presence in the UK at that time. So they approached us and said, would you like to distribute it, the product for us? And to be honest, we looked at it and we said, yeah, absolutely. It's a tier one vendor. It's a brilliant solution. It's a product I talk about all the time in my day-to-day job, and obviously very passionate about it. But for us, the relationship with KnowBe4 has been phenomenal because they allow us to do things in a different way to what other distribution does. We work in a very different way with them, but it's a very effective way. And our growth over the last 5 years with them has been huge, and so much so that I'm actually later this month, in a couple of weeks, going to Florida to their annual conference, which I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, it's been a great partnership for us, and long may that continue. We're also looking to expand what we do with KnowBe4 in terms of some of the other products that they have in their set. So that's quite exciting as well. But coming back to Conceal, to be honest with you, Gordon contacted me through LinkedIn, which I thought it's normally a fairly how can I put it? It's normally something that you don't take much notice of, but because of the fact that we are a fairly small distribution company in the grand scheme of things, we like to be quite agile. And when we get contacted like that, we do look at the solution, and if it works for us, if it fits into our stack and it complements the other solutions that we have, then we'll definitely have a look at it. And we had a really good experience with Gordon. Had a conversation, went through some of the detail on the product. We looked at the commercial model as well, and we like that. So it ticks all the boxes from a security, a compliance, and a commercial point of view. So that's why we're here today, and that's why we're looking forward to really launching the product here in the UK and taking it to the market in a nice, aggressive way.
All right. Well, I appreciate that backstory, Gordon. Before we sign off, any final words for the market? You always have a lot of words of wisdom for CSOs, security leaders, MSPs.
I just think that having, partnerships like the one we're launching with Brigantia now is critical more for, any the cyber companies. The other piece that I would say, and I appreciate actually Robert talking about the LinkedIn piece, is that, this is the importance of our network. And Steve, I think you're someone who really nurtures the cybersecurity community. And I love that we have this medium to be able to, share the great work that Brigantia is doing in the UK, talk about how we're, very, very invested in supporting the smallest and most vulnerable companies out there. And then the last thing I'll say is that, as you talked about LinkedIn, Robert, we have a saying at Conceal that everyone is a BDR, including the CEO. We're always we're always out there working to build that network. But super excited for this partnership, Steve, and I think lots of work ahead. But this is going to be a great team for the coming months and years.
Robert, thank you so much for coming on with us today, and hope we'll have you back on.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Gordon, great to see you. We'll catch up with each other next month.
Likewise. Thanks, Steve.
I'm Steve Morgan, founder of Cybersecurity Ventures and editor-in-chief at Cybercrime magazine. This interview is sponsored by Conceal, provider of an intelligence-grade zero-trust technology that protects global companies of all sizes from malware and ransomware. To learn more, visit conceal.io. You can keep up with all of our media at cybercrimemagazine.com.